What is up, everyone? Welcome to the UFC Live Before Lock show for UFC 265, which starts 1 hour from now, of course, live on ESPN Plus. We are sponsored by Monkey Knife Fight. We just on with Greg a little while ago talking about those Monkey Knife Fight bets. So you can check out what me and Greg had to say there. Of course, those will come up. Those prop bets that we talked about will come up throughout this show as well. Do also want to let you know today's show is also brought to you by our new podcast, Betting You, who will win the Heisman. Can Georgia dethrone Alabama? Which MAC teams should you be putting your money on? These questions and more are answered every Wednesday with Matt Jajeski and Ben Rossa as they talk all things college football betting. We have episodes available now on nearly every podcasting platform, including Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So go there and check them out today. Of course, we are here for the next hour to talk UFC 265. As always, I am joined by the fighter, Pete Rogers Jr., to give you a little insight into what was going on over the past couple of minutes as me and Pete were talking about, all right, who are the 7,000 fighters you're going to be putting in your lineup this week? Because, you know, as I was developing lineups, Pete, earlier today, that was kind of, I found myself as, in a way, it was a difficult build because it was like, okay, who under 8,000 am I going to? Now, look, if you, I think you got to throw darts at Derek Lewis at 6,800 because, look, Derek Lewis is not going to land volume, but we all know he lands one right hand, he can become the interim heavyweight champion here. But, you know, you like Chiesa, you know, there's some others, you know, maybe you like Jessica Penne, Vince Morales, but when we get under that 7,500, Pete, like, who are you trusting?
It's tough. What is up, everybody? What's going on? How's everybody doing? You know, another Saturday, another fight card. I think the reason I'm, you know, not having difficulty building lineups, but, you know, having to be a little bit more careful is because of the mid-range this week, right? Like, I'm okay with getting to the mid-range a lot. I say usually the mid-range is like lost in the shuffle. People like to pay high and low. And usually I can just play the mid-game and it works out for me quite a bit. I will say that the mid-range this week are a bunch of fights that I predict that'll probably go the distance. And I feel like you feel the same with that. And it's making me somewhat have to construct lineups with, you know, some 9,000 fighters or high 8,000 fighters, and then getting to at least 2, if not 3, 7,000 fighters. So, like, you know, there are some 7K fighters that I feel pretty confident in of, you know, their chances of pulling off the upset. But it's finding that third that you and I are kind of going back and forth on. It's like, okay, well, I can already tell you Ode Osborne's going to be one of the most popular plays on the slate under that 8,000 range because, you know, of his finishing potential, the, you know, inconsistency of Manel Kopp. But for me, you know, styles make fights, and I don't really like this style for Ode Osborne to come through victorious. But perhaps you feel different, and I feel like, you know, the majority of our listeners will like to get some Ode Osborne in their lineups.
This is my concern with Manel Kopp is he's a fighter that we had, you know, high thoughts on when he made his UFC debut. He has not lived up to those expectations. Then you miss weight by 3 pounds, which then becomes that story of, is that a situation that his coach said, no, we're done. We're not even going to try to make 136 at this point, or you know, or is it a situation where he stopped sweating? I mean, these are all questions that I have to ask for. Of course, Ode moving down the flyweight was all about, I remember he told me, he said, he goes, the reason I'm going down in weight is, he goes, I train with Montel Jackson and I'm not that big. I mean, literally he cut essentially no weight to make weight. I mean, and so that to me is a concern. I do feel like Ode Osborne, Michael Chiesa are going to be 2 guys that I'm just going to be overexposed on. Mm-hmm. And I don't love that. Of course, you can line questions up right now over in our premium Slack account. If you're a Awesemo Plus member, you can also line those up right here on YouTube. Of course, if you're not an Awesemo Plus member and you want to see what's behind the paywall today, MMA fighter rankings and MLB top stacks are free premium tools and data over at awesemo.com. Of course, be sure also to give us a thumbs up. We do appreciate that. If you're not subscribed to Awesemo right here on YouTube, you got to do that. Hit that notification bell. Of course, coming up after us will be MLB Live Before Lock with Greg and Gundash to get you ready for tonight's MLB slate. But Pete, we're here to answer questions. So let's get right into it. And I will tell you this, saw this question right before the show from Miles, and I love this question. Who scores more, Simmons, Herman, Green, or Lewis?
Well, it's a fantastic question. And it's definitely one where we're looking at the bottom of the barrel and trying to figure out who has the best chance of, coming away with a victory. I don't like Simmons today. I really don't. I think that I like Johnny Munoz, like pretty strong on the card. I like him. I think that, despite Simmons wrestling, I think Munoz's grappling and his jiu-jitsu could be a problem. Ed Herman's ground game is something that could be a little interesting against Alonzo Menifield, especially if Menifield gasses. So I have him in consideration. Derek Lewis, outside of a punt play, I fully expect Derek Lewis to lose tonight. But I mean, you and I talked about it before the show. It's like the meme that we're seeing going around, Ciryl Gane, better at cardio, Ciryl Gane, better, technical striking, Ciryl Gane, better fight IQ. With all that being said, Derek Lewis pulls it off in the second round via KO. So, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me at all. But, if to me, it comes down to Ed Herman and Bobby Green. And I do think that Ed Herman probably has a higher ceiling because of a finishing potential and possibly pulling off a submission upset. Whereas Bobby Green can probably steal a close fight. He's always in a close fight, mix in some takedowns, but it's kind of between those two for me. What about you?
I would be looking at Bobby Green and Ed Herman. I mean, look, we all know the knock on Alonzo Menifield with the cardio. And I did look at the prop bet, and someone mentioned this in Slack earlier today. Ed Herman via submission plus 800. I mean, that's a juicy prop because, and I think it's worth throwing a dart on that one just because of if Alonzo Menifield does not get the stoppage win in the first round, you're going to be loving Ed Herman heading into the second round just because, everyone, all the question marks that we have in terms of Alonzo Menifield. One thing I think is interesting potentially about Bobby Green, we have seen him score takedowns in his past couple of fights. And, the question is, can he get down to the ground? Or, I mean, Pete, does Bobby Green's ego get in the way here where he knows he's fighting a striker and he tries to outstrike a fellow striker?
I mean, Bobby Green's a good striker as well. With all that being said, Bobby Green, kind of allows his opponents to walk away with the victory because of how close the fights are at times. And I feel like he could, be on a win streak right now if he fought just a little bit more, intelligent. But I mean, at this point, it's tough to trust him. I think that, there's room for a UFC vet to pull off a victory here and squeak out a decision. But, it comes down to those two for me. But I think I'd have to say, side with Bobby Green as probably just edging out Ed Herman as a total punt play of those bottom four.
Yeah, it's a great question there. Miles also said, who's going to Takedown City and who is going to throw them bungalows? Well, to throw the bungalows, Derek Lewis, Alonzo Menifield are my top two candidates to throw in there. Who's going to Takedown City? Here's who I think are your candidates in terms of that one. Angela Hill. We all know her takedown defense is not very good. I think the other one to look at is potentially Carolina Kovacevic, as that to me is a path for Jessica Penne to win this fight.
Yeah, path for me, but I don't really view Jessica Penne as a strong wrestler. I view her more as a grappler. But I could see how that could happen. I think that Michael Chiesa could, if he walks away victorious, it's because he just completely ragdolls Vicente Luque. Needless to say, it's not an easy fight at all, but that's what he needs to implement. Takedowns immediately, clinch up, work towards the back, kind of replicate what Michael Graves did against Vicente Luque some time ago. Not going to be an easy task. Let me give you a sneaky one. And I don't know if it's like going to be Takedown City, but I do think that Manel Kopp can out-grapple Ode Osborne to solidify rounds, honestly. I really do. I think that he's a good wrestler, and Ode Osborne I know has a wrestling background as well, but he is, kind of comfortable off of his back and always hunting submissions. And with that being said, when you're comfortable off your back, sometimes you'll accept the takedown and not really defend it as much as you should. So those are a couple targets for me that I'll be looking at today.
Got a FanDuel question here from Miles on FanDuel GPP saying, given his price, can Bobby Green score enough in a loss? In terms of a punt play over on FanDuel, I would be more looking at somebody who I believe is going to have to stop takedowns.
Yeah.
So like Here's an example. I mean, look, you don't mention that you like Jamie Simmons, but Jamie Simmons is likely going to have to stop takedowns. I don't want to go that route. Other ones that I think I would maybe look at, maybe Anderson Dos Santos at $11.
Mm-hmm.
Other low value options. Angela Hill at $12. She's going to have to stop takedowns. She's going to have to.
I mean, she's evolved. Her takedown defense is not as bad as it used to be, but I just still think that it's her Achilles heel. It's her weakness, right? And we're all human, and it's clearly not her strength. And I do think that a fighter I think a fighter like Tisha Torres can solidify rounds. It's really not a fight that I'm prioritizing, though, right? Like, we're talking from a DFS standpoint. It's just not my favorite on the card. It's really not. I'd rather go elsewhere. I'd rather take a shot on a guy like Anderson Dos Santos, who has damn near 30 fights, has KO power, is a liability for sure with his recklessness. But I mean, we have seen Miles Johns get knocked out before. And there's always a discrepancy in regards to experience. And you have a guy with only 12 fights versus a guy with 30.
Another FanDuel question. This comes in from our premium Slack channel, which is one of the great benefits of being an Also Plus member. Blackbird 15 saying top value play for a FanDuel cash lineup. How about Vince Morales at $13?
I like it. I do like it. I mean, the thing with Vince is it's a really close fight, and his hands are pretty damn good. His boxing has always been there. He was accepting leg kicks in the Chris Gutierrez fight and just got absolutely brutalized by that. But I have seen him go the distance with some tough fighters, Benito Lopez. The Song Yadong fight is something that gives me confidence, where they're on the fight trading. And, he was cracking Song Yadong with some good combinations. Obviously, it's his ground game that I'm a little worried about, of getting caught in a submission by Draco Rodriguez. But I think that Draco Rodriguez could have an underlying chin issue. So that's why I really like Vince Morales as a punt play today on both platforms.
Ryan mentioned this question in terms of a GPP pivot from Osborne on DraftKings to Leonardo.
It's a question I asked you before the show, right? It's exactly what I was asking you. I mean, we have some unknown factors regarding Melissa Gatto. She's 6-0 in 2 draws. Okay. Victoria Leonardo is 8-3. If you look at Victoria Leonardo's strength of schedule, it's pretty questionable. But in her victories, how does she look good, or how does she come away victorious? She gets top position on the mat, and she implements some strong ground and pound. Granted, it's against pretty weak opposition. And Melissa Gatto, from the footage I've seen of her training lately, she looks good. She really does. And if I go back in her fights, she really hunts submissions, and she has an active guard. So, I've seen Victoria Leonardo get submitted in the past. I've also seen Victoria Leonardo get finished on the feet. I like Melissa Gatto, and I think that she has some growth in her game with this absence. But let me tell you, it's women's MMA, and, every week you could do worse than picking the underdog in women's MMA. Typically close fights, and, some underdogs coming through quite often.
Do want to let you know that here at Awesome, we do have 2 new YouTube channels that you need to subscribe to. If you love what we do for DFS, then you're going to love what we do for season-long fantasy football and sports betting. Just click the link pinned in the YouTube chat to subscribe to these channels, and make sure to turn on those notifications too. We will be producing sports betting and fantasy football content around the clock, so make sure to stay up to date with videos from your favorite Awesome hosts. And if you want to check out some other free content we are offering, you can find our fantasy football rankings in front of the paywall on the awesemo.com fantasy football tab. And for sports betting, you can check out the Awesemo odds tab for access to Odd Shopper and our MLB betting tools, which include our sports betting model and player props tool. Pete, 1 week from today, I'll be sitting inside Raymond James Stadium getting ready for a Tampa Bay Buccaneers radio network broadcast.
Bro, I gotta start my research, man. I've been
football season's here.
Yeah, bro, I've been slacking. I got to get on that, but I'm really excited to see how my Chargers perform this year. I'm really excited about our quarterback. I know you're excited about Brady again, and it's going to be a good season.
Yeah, looking forward to getting back in the booth starting here next week. But of course, if you do have any questions, you can line those up in YouTube, also in our premium Slack channel as well. Next up, John Jefferson says, "Who's your favorite bet tonight?" I found a prop bet I really like. Miles Johns inside distance plus 240.
Really? Okay. Okay, straight up. Who's your favorite fighter to win tonight?
Favorite fighter to win.
Don't care what the line is. Don't care what the salary is.
Johnny Munoz.
Same. Isn't that ridiculous? Isn't that ridiculous that I'm staring at this card and I've been looking at it and researching it all week, and Johnny Munoz, who's 10-1, is like somebody who I have a really strong feeling about getting a victory. I mean, I created a parlay, and my parlay was, I put Munoz. Who else did I do? I did Johnny Munoz. I put Melissa Gatto and Manel Kopp. And, I didn't go for crazy money, but, it got me, what was it? Plus 250, plus 280, something like that. I'm fine with that. And I think that those are some 3 solid bets that I feel decently comfortable with.
Yeah, I was just kind of playing around with various parlays, just kind of see the odds they would bring up. And I was looking at all 3 of these fights to go the distance. Chiesa, Luque, Torres, Hill, Yadong, Kenny. I think it was like, I don't know, plus 250, because they're all, it's all expected to go to decision. I think that's where you can look.
Wouldn't it be fun? Is there, an option for us to bet on how many finishes would be on the card, or how many finishes or how many decisions? Like, how we do this for fun and we always joke about that line. Like, is there an option for us to do that? Because imagine if there was an under over for finishes on the card. That would be something interesting to target every single week. I'm
sure there's a sports book here in Florida. Sports betting doesn't become legal till later on this year. Our number was 4.5. Or are you still sitting? Are you still saying over?
Yeah, I think I am, man. I mean, right? I got to stick to my guns. I'm still saying over. I think it's going to be 5 finishes. I don't know who the hell is going to get finished, but I think Johnny Munoz is going to find one.
Yeah, I think it's right around that 4 to 5 number. I think it's going to. If you told me we have 6 stoppages, I'd be kind of surprised.
I think our boy Hunter's saying 7. I think that's what he was saying on Thursday.
What's your 7? That's my question. What is your 7? I'd love to hear that one. Blackbird with another FanDuel question. This was a cash question. Aldo and Yadong, or Pedro Munoz and Luque?
I'll have to say the Munoz and Luque from an upside standpoint. I'm not really picking either one of those. I'm picking Aldo, but I'm picking Chiesa. But I will say the Munoz side has more upside.
By the way, someone asked if we've lost any fights. I have not seen anything, but I've got my tweet deck open here on the left.
Nice.
Just in case something does. You'll see me kind of look over, and that's more of basically see if we have any breaking news or not. But right now, we seem to be in very good shape in terms of that one. Someone saying Lewis will get tapped in the second round. I do like that prop bet of Cyril Gane to win via submission plus 600. I think that's one to kind of keep your eyes on in terms of that one. Andrew says, talk me off the ledge. Thoughts of Song Yadong in the MVP spot on FanDuel?
I just don't think there's enough upside. Well, on FanDuel, he's going to have to stuff some takedowns, right? But the problem is that he has been taken down in the past. I don't foresee him getting a finish. I feel like there's just a better option for MVP. It's a sneaky one. It's a contrarian one. But you want to combine defending takedowns with a possible finish or with a high score. And for me, it's just like a mediocre outcome. I mean, because I just view Casey Kenny as a really talented fighter. I view this as a, well-matched fight, pretty even throughout. And I don't really expect either one to absolutely dominate.
Yeah. Someone had asked about the DK captain contest earlier and picking an MVP, and I went Minifield. Don't feel great about it because of if he doesn't get that stoppage in the first round, but tonight is kind of, it is in a way a tough case, whether we're talking about in a DraftKings captain contest or a FanDuel MVP. I mean, look, FanDuel MVP, I think you got to be, Johnny Munoz has got to be in your consideration.
Yeah, if you want to be contrarian, you just avoid the Johnny Munoz. You go the other direction or avoid altogether. But I mean, he's like the number one person I'm putting in my lineups. It's strong wrestler, good jiu-jitsu against a guy who can get tapped or get knocked out. I like Munoz quite a bit. I think that he has an explosive performance. And I kind of want to be with the chalk or over the field. I want to have a lot of them.
Getting asked about the fighter we have less than 10% exposure on. That's an easy one for me, Jamie Simmons.
Yeah. It's Jamie Simmons, and I don't know, man. I just don't like the fight for him.
Yeah, I don't either. How necessary do you think it is to have either Lewis or Gane in your lineups? Someone asked me this question earlier, and I was around the 65-70% range.
It's going to be hard to get away from, right? And that's why
I mean, I think like, look, if you're talking you're a 150 max, I'd be looking 20% Derek Lewis free personally, and then in the 30 to 35% Ciryl Gane.
I think I'd have to go more with Ciryl Gane, honestly. Like, I mean, I understand what Derek Lewis brings to the table, but I really feel like Ciryl Gane can kind of check all the boxes, answer all the questions, and just destroy Derek Lewis at times. I like the Black Beast a lot. I really do.
But he's got that depth. He's got that.
I know he
touch.
does. I know he does. That's why you can't ignore him. But I'd probably like leave it at 15% and probably get to 40% Ciryl Gane.
This is a crazy thing about Derek Lewis, is that literally all you had to do is look at the Alexander Volkov fight.
Yeah.
That death punch is there no matter what time of the fight it is. And it's like he said this week, it just takes one.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's true, but he's been not lucky, but he's been fortunate to find that one quite often. It's almost like he's bailed himself out of jail numerous times. Sometimes you're just not going to find that. And, against a technical defensive fighter like Ciryl Gane, I think it's going to increase your difficulty. You know what I mean? Like if we saw holes in Ciryl Gane, the one thing I can say about Ciryl Gane is we haven't really seen him have to overcome adversity. So if he gets rocked, is he just a completely different fighter? We'll have to see. I mean, I've seen footage of him sparring Francis Ngannou, and it's pretty damn interesting, honestly. Like I like watching it. It's, they go back and forth tit for tat. And I just think that it's going to be Ciryl Gane against Francis Ngannou for the title.
Is Vicente Luque a sneaky captain play on FanDuel? My answer is yes on that one, just because of, he's got the top takedowns. And if he can keep this fight on the feet, he is going to pick apart Michael Chiesa. As much as I like Michael Chiesa in terms of that grappling, I am fully aware if he can't get this fight to the ground, he's in a bad place.
100%. And, when he has struggled to get takedowns, he has been desperate at times, feeling uncomfortable on the feet, ended up, throwing some desperation shots, shooting a little desperately, leaving his neck out there and getting choked. And, if he does that, and like I said on Thursday, if, he lands up in front headlock position, I have full faith that Vicente Luque will hit him with a Darce choke. So I think Vicente Luque is a very strong FanDuel play as opposed to a DraftKings play. You have to really look at the scoring systems for each platform and kind of cater to it, not regardless of your feelings of the fight. But I think that's what you need to do.
I mean, look, and you talked about this on Thursday. You've got to have exposure on that fight on both sides, because I would be relatively surprised if the winner of that fight's not optimal.
Yeah, I mean, I think that fight's going to be just one way or another. You're going to need it, especially when you're looking at, normally that 8,000, 8,200 fight of the week is something we get excited about. It's an amazing fight. It's an amazing matchup. But for DFS, I think the upside's capped there. So I'm not necessarily crossing it off, but I'm a little underweight to that. And that's usually like how I get around having three fighters, that are under 8,000. I'll have two in the 7,000 range, and I'll pick one of these at 8,200, 8,000, or I'll play a lot of mid-range. Well, this week's a little difficult to do that. So I do think that prioritizing matchups and looking at a fight like Vicente Luque, Michael Chiesa is one way to go.
Next up says pick one in a DraftKings GPP: Bobby Green, O'Day Osborne, or Anderson Dos Santos.
In a GPP, let's call it, we want 90 points. Okay, we want 90 points. Do I have to say O'Day Osborne? I really don't want to, though.
So many
No, I'm
questions.
not doing it. I'm not doing it.
There's so many questions on Manel Cop. I don't mind getting O'Day Osborne. I would say this. I don't mind getting any of those three. You don't feel great about any of those three.
Yeah.
But you're going to have to get the one of them.
A situation like this, right, where we feel confident in several underdogs and several favorites, is how, if you guys head over to awesemo.com, you go to Fantasy Cruncher. This is like a perfect day to do this, where you create groups. Okay, like we really like these guys, so we can make sure that we have at least one of these guys, and then we set a group of the fighters that we have a strong feeling, could pull upsets or could be a part of the optimal. And then that's what we're going to do. Set the group of, get at least one of these three. And, you start pumping out lineups, you change your unique players, and you'd be pretty surprised at the lineups that are created over there.
I saw someone ask about stacking the Chiesa Luque fight. No.
No, it's a no for me, dog. And the reason is, right, like, because one guy's going to implement their game. Chiesa is either going to ragdoll, Vicente Luque and control the entire fight, and Luque is not going to accumulate anything, or Vicente Luque is going to pick them apart, light them up like a Christmas tree, and route to a finish. If you had to stack a fight, I'd probably stack the main event. And I'm not into stacking fights. I'm not. And
especially this amount of fights.
Right. But the only reason you would do that, or is it the Fiziev Bobby Green? That could be a war.
I prefer to go that route than the main event, just because Derek Lewis is not a volume puncher.
Yeah, it's a great point. It is a great point. I would probably say Rafael Fiziev and Bobby Green would be the stack that I would choose because of how tough Bobby is, how tough Rafael Fiziev is, and how this could be a back and forth war for the ages. I really think that this is going to be an incredible fight.
Doug says, he goes, any fight that you're completely fading. Sorry, I'm at work, so I'm trying to hand build some lineups late. The fight that I would say that I really don't, there were two fights I would say that I'm not targeting much at all. One's Tisha Torres versus Angela Hill, more price point on Tisha Torres than anything else. And the other is a co-main event. I know everyone loves Pedro Munoz because of the price, but just the way I see that fight playing out, like in terms of building an optimal lineup, I just don't, talking probabilities, I think the probability is that fight's not going to end up in the optimal lineup.
I don't see Pedro finishing Jose Aldo. I really don't. And I understand that he has decent volume, but it's the speed difference that I think could, he could run into some problems tonight. And I think it's just going to be a pretty pretty even fight where both fighters respect each other. I'm excited to watch it, but for DFS, you have to, be selective with the fights you're going to target. I'd rather target the undercard, honestly. Like I like the undercard a lot more from DFS perspective. Usually you can gain some leverage on the field by focusing on the main card or focusing on the preliminary bouts. And this week it's the prelims.
Another FanDuel GPP question: Pedro Munoz or Song Yadong? Look, I like Munoz's chances to win the fight more than Song Yadong, but if Casey Kinney goes the takedown route, which he kind of alluded in the conversation that I had with him, that he didn't directly say those words, but he says, I need to be a complete mixed martial artist, which all we got to do is look at Casey Kinney's UFC fights. He's been a striker. So, and he has a wrestling background. So Song Yadong in FanDuel is a little bit of an interesting play over there, just because of, you can stop the takedowns, trains the team alpha male. So that, that's a part of the daily grind over there. I might say a Song Yadong win, the upside is higher than a Pedro Munoz win.
I'm surprised you would say that, and I would agree with you. I really do think that, Song Yadong surrounded by so many wrestlers, you have no choice but to get better. I mean, you're either going to learn how to swim or you're going to drown over there. And it's just the truth. You're going to learn how to protect yourself against guillotines, and you're going to learn how to wrestle. It's just what the team alpha male way. So I'm excited for the fights tonight, and I'm interested to see that maybe who's going to surprise us. Every week we're surprised by something. Every week we see something happens that we didn't predict or didn't see coming. What's it going to be this week? Throw it in chat. Let us know what you think is going to happen. And, keep, shooting your questions in there. We'll get right to them.
Yeah, I want to say Team Alpha Male. They call it the King of the Hill Challenge, which is basically who can get the most takedowns and who can stop the most takedowns. A little bit of an interesting challenge they do there at Team Alpha Male. Of course, we are sponsored by Monkey Knife Fight. Of course, we've been telling you about Monkey Knife Fight for some time. And with Monkey Knife Fight, you are in charge, whether you want to play UFC or whatever it may be. You can get that started over at Monkey Knife Fight. Head over there, monkeyknifefight.com. Choose which game you want to play, your contest type, your buy-in, and even better, Monkey Knife Fight has an instant first match deposit bonus of up to $100 when you sign up with the promo code AWESOMO. Of course, myself and Greg were on a little earlier talking about the Monkey Knife Fight lines. And, there's some interesting ones for me in terms of this one. Like, let's look at the main event of Derek Lewis and Ciryl Gane. Derek Lewis, 42.5. That number's gone up a little bit since we did the show there on Thursday. Ciryl Gane, 95.5. I would not feel comfortable going more 42.5 on Derek Lewis just because he's not a volume puncher. The 95.5 on Ciryl Gane, if you think this thing's going 4+ rounds, I think you have to go more.
Yeah, I would agree with you. And also for Derek Lewis, right? Like, okay, say the line's 40 punches or 40 strikes. Can Ciryl Gane take 40 strikes from Derek Lewis? I mean, who can take 40 strikes from Derek Lewis? I mean, it's a good point. If he hits you, usually you're going to fall. And, I think targeting the more for Ciryl Gane would make sense if you think it's going over 3 rounds. And I have a feeling that it's probably going to. And I like the more on that side and less for Derek Lewis.
Angela Hill or Jessica Penne? I prefer Jessica Penne in that scenario.
I'm going to be different than you, man. I'm not a Jessica Penne guy. I'm really not. I didn't think she looked great last time around. I understand her potential with the submission threat, but I think that Karolina Kowalkiewicz can, beat her up on the feet. Jessica Penne has always been a liability on the feet. If she can defend takedowns, you're talking about a sneaky person over on FanDuel. Karolina Kowalkiewicz is pretty sneaky over there.
Yeah.
But I think for me in general, Angela Hill's volume is something that could squeak away a decision against Tecia Torres. You mentioned that she's, lost the previous bout to Tecia. That could up the ante a little bit and make her want to come out there and put a statement.
Jared mentions, he goes, what fighter are people not talking about enough?
Thank you for asking that question. I love that question.
Is it Anderson Dos Santos or Draco Rodriguez? Those would be my 2 candidates.
Damn good candidates, buddy. Yeah, so for Draco Rodriguez, 7-2 overall, just got knocked out against Amin Sahabi. People were pretty excited about him going forward. He can box pretty well, has sneaky jiu-jitsu, has an extensive amateur background as well. But in his 2 defeats, he has been knocked out. And I mean, Amin Sahabi didn't have the best success in the UFC up until that point. And, he had like a breakout performance against some. So I'm a little worried about Draco absorbing shots. If he goes out there with a wrestling heavy game plan or trying to incorporate his jiu-jitsu, definitely a safe game plan. We're not talking about Draco, but he should be in the conversation. But Anderson Dos Santos with 30 fights, it's just so tough to fade a guy with 30 fights. You need some exposure to him, regardless of how ugly his tape is. You really do. I would say Anderson Dos Santos is a guy that, we're probably all not talking about enough.
And if you're Draco Rodriguez, you got to implement leg kicks. I mean, that has to be the game plan. Has to be a major part of your game plan, this one. Next up, who scores the best in DraftKings in the mid-range? Pedro Munoz, Angela Hill, or Vince Morales?
I'm saying Vince Morales. I like him to pull the upset, honestly. I really do. I like him over at Syndicate. I like his boxing. I like what I saw in some of the moments against Song Yadong and some of his previous performances in the UFC. It shows me that he can absorb a strike and he's somewhat battle tested. Whereas Draco Rodriguez, he looked good on the Contender Series. And in some of his victories, it's been pretty quick work. But if the fight's not going his way and he gets caught with a shot, I don't really have a lot of trust in that chin.
Here's an interesting point I heard someone else bring up this week about the main event. And let me get your take from a fighter's perspective.
Yeah.
We have seen Ciryl Gane stick to a very calculated game plan in terms of not engaging in these brawl type situations.
Mm-hmm.
However, those were in a UFC Apex situation where there's no fans. Now he's in a situation where you're in your opponent's hometown. Can he stick to that game plan?
Yeah, I still think he does. I think it's just in his blood, man. And it's just in his DNA. I'm telling you, the way that he fights, he's so intelligent and he's so advanced for his experience. It's a great point. And that Derek Lewis can either feed off that crowd, or that crowd and the pressure could somewhat get to him. And he admitted that, he's feeling the pressure, because if you haven't fought in your hometown, it's a lot. It is a lot. You got the whole city behind you.
It's like you're talking from experience or something.
I mean, it's a lot. I mean, he doesn't have to worry about selling tickets, because, he's just going to sell tickets regardless. But, it's just a lot of pressure, and you feel like the stakes are upped, and it's either going to bring the best out of you, or you could possibly let it get to you. I'm excited to see this. Some people enjoy and thrive going into enemy territory, and I believe that Rogan's one of those guys that can go in there and get the job done and not be phased.
Let's see here. But I thought it was an interesting scenario to bring up, because if it's a not exciting fight, the boos are going to rain down. Yep. And how that is going to go in terms of that one. Dave says, he goes, how do you fade Derek in his hometown, especially with Gane fighting with his hands down? Watch the Volkov fight again. Look, here's the thing. Everyone remembers the knockout that he had against Volkov. But do you remember the previous 14 minutes of that fight? Yeah,
I'm with you, man. I am with you.
Just something to kind of put up in there. Dante wants to know, Pete, what's your biggest upset?
Biggest upset, buddy. I think I'm going to go with, it's a tough card. I think I'm going to go with Vince Morales pulling off the upset today.
Yeah, I'm with you in terms of that one there. Of course, if you have any questions, line those up right there in chat. Of course, one of the things that we love to see after the fights are over, we saw it last week. We love those screenshots that show us those big wins that you take down. Of course, you can get into the Awesemo Hall of Fame when you're rocking that Awesemo avatar. You can get that at awesemo.com/avatar, place in the top 3 of a contest with over 5,000 contestants, and then tweet your wins to @AwesemoHOF. You win a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. Only one free month can be awarded to a user per calendar year. So I always love seeing those screenshots that we do see up there. We saw a couple last week in terms of the UFC. So congratulations. Also, I know we've had some big wins from Team Awesemo here over the past couple of days. So always love seeing those screenshots over there that we get here on the stream. And let's see your screenshots coming up here tonight with UFC 265. And I will tell you, in some of my lineups, I definitely took a very contrarian approach by using our ownership and sitting there and just looking at guys that are just not getting ownership, and where could I potentially find a leverage play there. Next up, Nate says, what combo would you rather have in cash play? Gatto and Luque, or Minifield and Green? I would say Gatto and Luque.
Agreed. Yeah, that's the side I would go with in that situation. We have a comment from 20 Rick, and I have to mention it because it's just fantastic. He said, what alcohol should I drink when Jamie Simmons ruins my night when he beats Munoz? Anything you can find, right? Anything you can find at that point, because it's a low-level fight, because they are kicking off the UFC card. It's the first fight of the night, so it's Jason's favorite fight of the night.
Look, this. If Jamie Simmons wins, I'm just going to text Pete, this is why I don't play the first fight of the night.
Yeah, it's true. It is true. And I wouldn't be surprised. It's MMA. We talk about it. Jamie Simmons has some strong wrestling, but I think it's the submissions of Munoz that's going to cause him problems, and the striking. I just like Munoz today, and hopefully we're not being blinded. That does not happen. But be careful if that does.
Yeah. Let's see here. Next up, we got Chris says, one slot to go on FanDuel, and I'm looking at Luque over Aldo over Chiesa, and Osborne over Manel Kopp for the last spot. What I'm asking is give me some points. Luque, to me, especially on FanDuel, I think he's got to be a major consideration just because of, he's going to stop takedowns. And if he keeps the fight on the feet, I think he's just going to pick apart Michael Chiesa and potentially get a stoppage at some point. In terms of like an Aldo v Chiesa, I think Chiesa's ceiling is just higher than Aldo. Osborne and Manel Kopp is kind of, I think a lot of people are going to look at Ode Osborne. I mean, look, I have a lot of questions about Manel Kopp heading into this one. It's, for me, it's kind of one of those situations of, I really don't want to get to Manel Kopp today. I want him to show me something that we just haven't seen so far in his UFC fights, and missing weight is a concern as well.
I like Manel Kopp today. I just do. I think that when I watch him on tape, there's more to absorb from Manel Kopp's tape than there is Ode Osborne's. A lot of quick finishes, which is fantastic, but doesn't show me the entire skill set that you possess. And I think that Manel Kopp's been in there against some strong and legitimate competition. I think Ode Osborne has plenty of skills. I just worry about this getting out of the first round. How does Ode Osborne really handle that? Or how does he handle a guy that can kind of answer what he throws? He can, evade shots, mix in takedowns, match him with athleticism. I'm excited about Manel Kopp today, to be honest. And I know that's somewhat contrarian.
Next up, Jeffrey says on FanDuel, what $20 salary and above fighter are you fading? So we've got Ciryl Gane at $23, Rafael Fiziev at $22, Alonzo Menifield $21, Manel Kopp $20, Miles Johns $20, Johnny Munoz $20.
It'd probably be
$22.
It'd probably be Manel Kopp because the division in general just has low finish percentage. And I feel like there's some fighters on there that are going to need to stuff some takedowns and punch their opponents. I mean, even Rafael Fiziev is going to have to stuff some takedowns. So it's a guy I'd like to get, exposure to over on FanDuel. Manel Kopp, for me, he's going to be the one implementing takedowns and, kind of dancing on the outside. So my expectations are tempered, and that's a fighter that I'm okay getting less of over on FanDuel.
Tony Rick mentioned about Ciryl doesn't speak English, so the crowd will have no impact on him. I believe Ciryl Gane actually does know English, but he's learning the language, so he still has an interpreter.
You can still tell when a crowd's booing you, right? Or
that's the international language. Like they always say, fighting is a international language. Everyone kind of understands everything.
Yeah, you're gonna have to excuse my French. Man, did you see that? Oh
God, that was the best line.
The best line I've ever heard in my life.
There's times at these press conferences that I just like, why do people do that?
Because they troll in real life. You know what I mean? Like slap that guy, take the mic out of his hands. But I mean,
don't
Conor
troll
McGregor fans have done that before, and we've been fine with
fans.
it. So.
Okay, fans, different story. But what you're talking about, you're supposed to be there as a media person.
Was that a media man?
Yes.
Oh, you're not getting credentials going forward, right? You wouldn't think so.
No, don't troll a fighter. That's not going to end well for you.
I mean, Derek Lewis really handled it professionally, and it was the best comeback of all time. I loved it.
Oh God, it was a tremendous comeback from him. Chiesa and Osborne or Luque and Morales.
I'd go to Luque Morales.
Yeah, I would too. We've had a bunch of FanDuel MVP, most confident plays. In terms of FanDuel MVP, I think you got to be looking. If I was going to put my top fighters, I would consider Johnny Munoz, Alonzo Menifield, and Ciryl Gane. That'll be my top three.
That's the problem, right? Like I like all three of those guys. How the hell are you going to build a lineup with all three of them?
You can't.
You can, but you're going to have to roster Angela Hill, Anderson Dos Santos, and Michael Chiesa or something like that. Like you're going to feel okay with one of those guys, and it's just going to be a nail biting experience.
Of course, when you want to get access to all the great premium tools and data we have over at Awesemo.com, you got to sign up for Awesemo Plus weekly pass for $29.95. And if you're a new user of Awesemo Plus Platinum, then you can take advantage of the promo code we have for this show, which is MMA Live Before Lock, all caps, one word. That's MMA Live Before Lock for 25% off your first week of Awesemo Plus Platinum. Of course, if you just looking to play MMA DFS, you can sign up for Awesemo Plus MMA Weekly Pass for $8.95. Stop guessing, start winning. Join Awesemo Plus today, and I will highly recommend when you're an Awesemo Plus member and just pull up that top fighter tools. Got all the tools you need there to help develop your alliance, whether we're talking on DraftKings or over on FanDuel. I will tell you this: one of the things I don't love playing the DK Captain contest. We're getting a lot of questions about DK Captain.
I also noticed that, the tournaments were a little, there was some strong prize pools today. And I was like, damn, I like it. Okay. I'm happy to see that. And I'm happy to see that MMA DFS is, it's inconsistent week to week, but I will say that it seems like it's growing and moving in the right direction. So thanks to you guys, thanks to all 600 of you guys tuning in. If you guys can hit that like button, keep, shooting those questions in chat. I was happy when I looked at that today.
Yeah, we got 10 minutes here left in the show. Of course, following us will be MLB Live Before Lock to get you ready for tonight's MLB slate. Someone asked about a cash core.
Cash core, Menafield, Munoz. Menafield, Munoz. Where the hell are we going to go after that? Morales?
Ooh, maybe.
Chiesa?
Yeah, I mean, it's like if you sat there and said, give me 5 fighters that you think will win. I think you could get about 3. And then once you get to 4 and 5, it becomes a tough pick.
For sure. I mean, that's exactly what we were talking about. Like, I feel pretty confident in my first 3 selections. It's okay. Look how much salary I have left. And now I got to make a lineup with it. So
when I did my sheet before the show,
yeah,
at that point we had 4 fights that were straight pick'em fights.
Uh-oh. What's the money doing now?
I'll have to look at it. It was one of them was Leonardo and Gatto was one of them. So I'm just pulling up the lines. Of course, you can check out the lines over at oddshopper.awesemo.com. Chiesa Luque is a straight pick'em -110 across the board. Draco Rodriguez, Vincent Morales is a pick'em across the board. Melissa Gatto, Leonardo is also a pick'em as well.
A lot of people have been putting money on Morales, if I'm correct, because don't believe the odds were like that early on. Corey Randall just hit us up with a super chat, said, how is Luque's takedown defense? I think it's ever improving, right? I mean, in his losses, he has been ragdolled. That was against Michael Graves. And then, against Leon Edwards, he was out wrestled and lost. And I think that a strong wrestler can pose problems to him, and his submission game is somewhat a part of his takedown defense, right? Like, some people are hesitant to shoot because they don't want to get their necks trapped. But if you're with an upper body wrestler who likes to get underhooks and body locks and work towards your back, then the chokes are somewhat negated. So I will say that his takedown defense is better than it used to be. But I think in this stylistic matchup, he could still have some issues against Michael Chiesa.
Pedro Munoz and Bobby Green versus Ode Osborne and Leonardo. I would go the Munoz Green route.
Yeah. That's a tough one.
Yeah. Golden Light fan says, Torres MVP FanDuel, you will be very, very unique.
Could she get a submission finish that we're not talking about? I say no.
She's not a finisher. She has like one finish in her career.
That's why I said
that. She's a decision machine.
I was setting you up. That's why I said no.
Yeah, no.
It's a loaded question.
Is Johnny Munoz worth MVP on FanDuel? Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
That's a simple one here. Someone asked if any fights canceled. I have not seen anything pop across my screen. So definitely pay attention to see if anything's going to happen there. Let's see here.
We got Joe saying, thanks for the Phil Rowe call. Yeah, I saw that and I replayed that and I was like, dang, Phil Rowe came through. I was happy with that. Happy to help
Yeah, so we're approaching under 10 minutes to go here before we reach lock. We'll be here for another 5 minutes before MLB Live Before Lock will take over. So be on the lookout for that. I know someone asked about Jose Aldo and whether we thought he can win the fight. I think it's a 50-50 kind of fight. I don't favor one side drastically over the other. I think it's a fight that's going to play out on the feet. I do wonder how much of we will see the leg kicking of Jose Aldo, which is something over his past couple of fights has not really been a key component of his offense like it was early in his career.
If he ever went back to it, bro, I'm telling you, he could dominate the division. His leg kicks. Imagine if Jose Aldo started throwing calf kicks. Imagine he started throwing calf kicks. It's over.
Yeah. Crazy thing, he's only 34 years old.
I know. It's not a good thing, right? It's not a good thing when we're saying that because
Pedro Munoz is 34 years old. Take that one in.
It's true.
It's a crazy note there in terms of that one. Of course, we appreciate everyone that has been tuning in here. In terms of look, there's a lot of fights I think have a good chance to go the distance in this one. Mentioned about it on a strategy show. Someone's asked about more value plays over. I don't know if I would consider this a value play, but Carolina Kowalkiewicz is $17. I like her much more as a FanDuel play than I do as a DraftKings play because A, she's a volume puncher, but B, Jessica Penne has to get the fight to the ground. Jessica Penne cannot win a fight at range against Carolina Kowalkiewicz.
Do you remember when Joanna Jędrzejczyk was brutalizing Jessica Penne with sprawl and brawl and literally hit her with an immense total of strikes? And it was like one of the most dominant performances out there. Well, Carolina Kowalkiewicz has been working with Joanna Jędrzejczyk, for this camp. And I think that Carolina Kowalkiewicz, I don't think that she can go out there and do what Joanna did, but if she can, somewhat replicate a performance like that, we could be looking at a fighter at 8,300 who's just out of that 8,000, 8,200 range that could give us a nice performance.
So that was a fight you mentioned about the Jessica Penne, Joanna Jędrzejczyk fight. Ended in the third round at 4 minutes and 22 seconds. Joanna Jędrzejczyk landed 162 total strikes in under 15 minutes of fighting.
Damn. That Joanna, the boogie woman, that Joanna is crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Fade Manel Kopp and cash due to missing weight.
There's just better options. For Manel Kopp, why wouldn't you play people around him? It's a flyweight division. That I think he's going to win, but he hasn't really shown you what he's capable of in the UFC yet.
Of course, I appreciate everyone that's been tuning in here to the Live Before Lock show. Of course, if you're not subscribed to Awesome, make sure to do that. Hit that notification bell so you know when the show is live here on the channel. And as always, we do appreciate those thumbs up. How about rostering Bobby Green in order to free up money for other spots? I like that. I like that thought process on roster construction.
Yeah, it's like you're punting, like in baseball, right? Sometimes for me, I like to punt a position, and I just don't even care. I'll pick the bottom of the barrel, and it allows me to spend up in other ways. And every now and then, that bottom of the barrel option comes through and gets you enough points where that combination of fighters just really explodes.
Let's end on this question from Jeff Morgan. Is Munoz a bad pick or a good one? And is Aldo too old?
I think Munoz is a good pick. And I don't think that Aldo is too old. I think that he's weathered. And it's a matter of motivation, the weight cut, and going out there and still competing at a high level.
And of course, that is going to wrap it up for Live Before Lock. I will be in our premium Slack channel throughout the night of fights, chatting with our members. So look forward to that tonight. Look forward to hopefully everyone has a very profitable night, whether you're playing on DraftKings, FanDuel, Monkey Knife Fight. As always, we do love those screenshots. Pete, anything you want to mention before we get out of here?
No, I just want to say thanks to all the listeners out there. You guys are the best. You guys, are the best community out there. Jason and I really appreciate you. If you can hit that thumbs up, good luck, everybody. If you're playing in a large field GPP, you're going to have to get different this card. It's a weird one. So be careful out there. Enjoy the fights. And as always, thank you very much.
And of course, coming up next will be MLB Live Before Lock. Greg and Dundacker get you ready for tonight's MLB slate. So good luck to everyone tonight. And we will talk to you in 2 weeks for the next strategy show. No UFC show next week, Pete. No UFC show next week.
Oh, I might book a quick vacay. I might book a quick vacay, go to Florida or something. Yeah, go say what up, Jason.
We're wide open, baby. We're wide open down here in Florida. So come on down. So that is going to do it for Live Before Lock. We will see y'all in 2 weeks for the strategy show. So good night, everybody.